So today we will just talk a bit about holistic parenting and the whole sort of mindtherapy methodology that we talk about, parenting in the paradigm of us as Muslims, and then also parenting in the paradigm of ERDC and mindtherapy. What do we mean by this? And this will, inshallah, then just maybe give you a bit more inspiration to look into this further. And of course, next week, there won't be a class because we'll be running a 4-session workshop where we will take a really deep dive into holistic parenting and how we work on the child's developmental needs. What are the greater goals of parenting? What are the greater goals of education, which we say stand on 3 pillars of confidence, of creativity, and character. So I think I also asked a question on the group as well, with regards to what do you think is the difference between confidence and character from a Western paradigm and from an Islamic paradigm, and particularly a paradigm when we talk about my tarbiyah. So inshallah, we'll discuss this in detail in the course next week. So for today, I think we'll just start off by briefly asking some questions. And I want you to ask yourself, and then if you want to answer on the chat, by all means do so, but certainly do answer and ask yourself the questions. And the question is, what are the harms if we don't holistically parent our children? Or for the teachers amongst us, what are the harms if we don't understand what holistic parenting is? What are the harms if a child doesn't receive parenting in a holistic manner? So some of the questions which our teachers asked us, which I'll share with you today as well, is it possible that a child achieves good grades, but his decision-making skills are poor? I mean, is that possible? Is it possible that a child's academic performance is good, but after marriage, his relationship with his wife is it's poor? You know, he really struggles for a healthy relationship. Can it be that there was a student, he was the teacher's pet, he was the most favorite loved student in his class, possibly even a very good boy or girl or loved student in the home, so he was recognized for his achievements. But this child then has temperament issues. Is that possible? And the reason why I'm asking these questions is just to demonstrate that if we don't holistically parent, if we don't provide holistic parenting to children, then these are some of the consequences that we experience, that the child experiences. And then, of course, there's suffering. There's suffering for the individual, and there's suffering for the people who this person is going to come into contact with, whether it's in the home, whether it's in the neighborhood, whether it's on holiday, whether it's at work. These are some of the harms. Is it possible that there's a child, there's a teenager who's displaying really good, you can say, business acumen, business understanding, entrepreneurship skills, but this person doesn't know how to keep his wife and kids and his family members happy? It's possible, right? So these are the harms of not, from a parenting perspective, if we don't understand what holistic parenting is, then these are some of the consequences. Okay. I mean, let's take it further. If we look at it from, you can say, like an Islamic paradigm. So is it possible that there's someone who's done hifz? So they've memorized the complete Quran, but their tarbiyat hasn't been done. Okay, so now here the question is, what does tarbiyah mean? Does tarbiyah mean that my child follows my every command? He's well disciplined. When I ask the child to do so and so, they follow and they comply. Is that what tarbiyah is? In our understanding, in our methodology, in our paradigm of Islamic tarbiyah and parenting, that is not tarbiyah. To take the child's decisions in your hands is not tarbiyah. To enforce discipline is not tarbiyah. To make the choices for the child against the child's will and then say, look, he followed my instructions. What a good kid. So respectful. Okay. The real, you can say, litmus test is, how does the child behave, or how does this person behave when he grows up, when he is left to his own self, when he's left to his own desires, when he's left to his own nafs? Does this person even have an understanding of what the nafs is? So when we talk about tarbiyah, we say that tarbiyah is when this child is able to make good, sensible choices himself. This child knows the difference between right and wrong, and his heart inclines toward what is right, and this person himself moves away from what they recognize as wrong. Now, of course, behind that, there's also the fact that this child will understand the difference between right and wrong. And when it comes to understanding the difference between right and wrong, the child will have some moral compass where they are able to differentiate and make that decision. So I'm just explaining this in a nutshell. Inshallah, we'll go into much detail when we do the workshop, but this is what tarbiyah is from our paradigm. What we see is a child goes to school and they achieve amazing grades, okay, and they get behavior certificates. But the moment we see them outside on the street playing with their friends, it's a different person. In school, in front of the teachers or even in front of the parents, the language is amazing. But outside, this child is swearing. At home, the child won't eat sweets and chocolates. But the moment they're given a chance, and when I'm saying a child, the same principle applies to adults as well. That in the presence of people, I am someone. But when I'm on my own, I'm someone else. This means tarbiyah has not been done. The type of tarbiyah that has been done here is, I will behave and I will comply and I will demonstrate certain skills in front of an audience to please them and to show them how good I am superficially. But deep down inside, when I'm on my own, that's my real self. That's my real character. So like I said, this applies to adults. This also applies to children as well. So tarbiyah in our paradigm is something very different. So can it be, like I said, a person has done hifz, but his tarbiyah hasn't been done? Can it be that a person has memorized a hadith, but when he opens his mouth, he knows how to come out with words, but he doesn't know how to actually talk? Can it be that someone's tajweed is amazing, but they don't fear Allah in that the way they should? Can it be that a person has traveled the world and spent time in institutions, academic institutions, but they don't, or they have problems when it comes to being humble? Okay, so again, these questions point to us that we have been successful in acquiring a certain set of skills. Okay, so maybe we focused on education. So again, now here we need to define what do we mean by education. So probably in the context that we look at education, so they've got a person, we focused on making sure this person has good grades, they have a really good memory, but the holistic parenting and the focus has not been, or the effort has not been made on the complete child. Okay, so what is the whole child? The whole child is not just grades. The whole child is not just being able to speak confidently in front of a crowd. The whole child is not just being able to sit in the masjid and demonstrate how good the hifz is. This is not the whole child. The whole child involves feelings. The whole child, there's the child's understanding, there's intellectual needs, there's the physical needs, there's social needs, there are the emotional needs of a child. So a lot of the things that I've discussed above, a lot of these issues arise because a child's emotional needs haven't been fulfilled. So the goal of holistic parenting is not that the child follows my instructions. It's not that the child does as he is told and that he gets good grades and he makes me proud in front of my family members, in front of the neighbors. When we go to see someone, I can confidently and proudly say, this is my son. He's a doctor, he's an engineer, he's a dentist. Okay, that is not holistic parenting, and neither is that the goal of holistic parenting. Okay. Holistic parenting, or we can't use this as a measure of success. My son was 12 years old, my daughter, she was 12 years old, and she did her GCSEs. That is not the goal of holistic parenting. Okay, that's just a very small goal where we have been able to teach this child a skill to perform in that particular art. But in the grand scheme of things, when this child has to face the world, they will suffer, as I've just explained with the examples before. So when we talk about holistic parenting, when we talk about what are the actual goals, then the goal is that this child uses all his God-given potentials to serve a big, worthwhile cause. So again, the goal of holistic parenting in our paradigm, and as Muslims, is a child is able to use all his God-given potentials to serve a big, worthwhile cause. Now, if we look at the causes that maybe we are fighting for, if we look at the causes which our kids, our students are fighting for, I mean, there's so many times when I've sat with my students and I've asked them, so what's your 5-year plan? What are your goals? And it's like, I need to go to university. Okay, and then that's going to help me get a job. And then I'll be able to get married. Okay, and then I can have kids and live happily and maybe go on holiday. Okay, and then, like, what do you mean and then? This is not a big, worthwhile cause for which we were created. Okay. Why? Is because we have not been able to, first of all, we need to ask ourselves the same question. What is my purpose here? What's my biggest purpose? Is my purpose to pay off my mortgage and then retire? What does retirement mean? In the Islamic context, in the Islamic paradigm, my personal view is there is no concept of retirement. Okay, you can retire from maybe working, but in terms of serving Allah, there is no retirement. Fighting the attacks of shaitan, there is no retirement. Fighting the fitna, there is no retirement. Speaking honestly, there is no retirement. Controlling your emotions, controlling your temper, there is no retirement. Waking up in the morning for Fajr, there is no retirement. Fasting during Ramadan, there is no retirement. Being kind to your family members and neighbors, there is no retirement. helping the ummah, there is no retirement. There is no retirement. But this is a concept that's been sold to us. How to prepare for retirement. So this concept stems from the fact that there is no afterlife. Okay, you've worked really hard, now you deserve a break. No, our break will come in the grave. And until that point, I have to continue serving for a bigger, worthwhile cause. But our worthwhile cause has changed. Our worthwhile cause is just living for the dunya. And this is exactly then what the kids are doing. So if you're giving someone and role modeling someone that, son, I'm preparing for retirement. Okay, dad, so to make sure that you have a really good retirement, you need to make sure you have a really good pension. And you need to have enough savings. And you need to have invested in property and businesses so you don't have to work, so you can go on holiday. Is that a big, worthwhile cause? So when we demonstrate, when we role model, and when we talk about these things, and our kids see us visiting websites and phoning HMRC and phoning those private pension companies, that becomes their goal. I need to also make as much effort as my parents so I can retire. Okay, so this is not holistic parenting, and this is not teaching the real meaning and purpose of life. So it comes back down to, again, it's my tarbiyah. Do I even understand my aim in life? Do I even understand my goal in life? So inshallah, we will be doing a lecture series on this. So career and the meaning of life. What does that mean? Death and the meaning of life. What does it mean? How are we supposed to perceive this? Marriage and the meaning of life. Education and the meaning of life. These are some things that we need to define, we need to understand, and we need clarity on ourselves. And only then can we go and start discussing this with our kids and role modeling and hoping that their tarbiyah is done. So what's the actual goal? The actual goal is that the child uses his complete God-given potentials to serve a big, worthwhile cause. Okay. So does the child listen to me, or is this child going to listen to his inner voice, which is governed by his faith and understanding of the world? I mean, what do we want? Listen to me or listen to his inner voice? Do I want my child to follow my choices, or do I want my child's choices and actions to become good? So whatever situation he is in, he can make his own choice. Do I have to make the choices and decisions for my kids and for my students? Or is it better that they become sensible and responsible in their choices? Okay, so tarbiyah is not that I teach the child discipline. Tarbiyah is that the child becomes disciplined himself. He becomes self-disciplined. So we move from extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation. This child is intrinsically motivated, and we need to ask ourselves a question here as well. What motivates me? Do I need a pat on the back? Do I need a well done? Do I need someone to recognize what I'm doing in order to be motivated to carry on doing the action? Because if that's the case, there's a big problem over here. You're extrinsically motivated. And the moment that extrinsic motivation is removed, you will stop with that action. So the focus of tarbiyah here is I become intrinsically motivated. Whether someone praises me, whether someone sees me, I am still consistent, and I am still going to work hard to achieve that objective. And where did that objective come from? It came from something which I recognized as a worthwhile cause, as a bigger project, which I need to achieve. Why? Because I want to contribute. Why do I want to contribute? Because this is the whole purpose why I'm over here. I am able to make a sacrifice to make the situation better, whether it's for my family, whether it's for my society, neighborhood, or whether it's for the world. And the classic example is Palestine. We are waiting for people to make the sacrifice to go and help. We're looking up to the leaders. So where's our sacrifice? If we want to make a difference, we will make the sacrifice ourselves. And it doesn't matter how big or small. You know, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at a person and his amal, the first thing he looks at is his intention. Ya Allah, if I had the ability to do so and so, I will have done so and so. And the beauty of that is, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, you will be actions are judged based on their intentions. Allah will reward us on his intentions. And our teachers mentioned the ayat of Surah Mulk. Okay, تبارك الذي الملك الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن أملا. So what does this mean? أيكم أحسن أملا. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, you know, you've been created, you've been given life and death, so that I can see أيكم أحسن أملا, who is the best in his deeds. So the ayat wasn't أكثر أملا, who has the most deeds. No, so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us that, look, I'm not after quantity over here. Because Allah knows there may be someone who lives 20 years. They won't have the opportunity to do the number of deeds that a person who lived up until the age of 60, 70, 80. So instead of counting on numbers, Allah says, what is your intention? What was the driving force behind it? You could be doing deeds for 70, 80 years just to show people. You could be doing it just because you received lots of wahwa and well done and pats on the back and likes on YouTube. That kept you going. Okay, fine. You got your recognition in the world. In the akhirah, there's not going to be anything left. But this person who only lived till the age of 20 and they did a few years of deeds, but they did it purely for Allah, this person's deeds will far outweigh the other person's. So what is holistic parenting? So holistic parenting is when we look at the complete individual. The complete individual, not just a few specific subjects or areas. And unfortunately, if you look at the education system, in particular the early education system, then what does this education system do? The early education system is busy in trying to get kids to pronounce words properly. And it's as if it's saying that if this child is able to pronounce the letter S, if he does this properly, then his character is going to be amazing. And then when he grows up and then if he gets married, his mother-in-law is going to be so proud of him. Why? Because the S was perfect. Or if I as a parent, if I can just get my child to write his D's the right way around, my God, his future, he's going to be the most successful person. And if my child or if my student, if they don't write between the lines, then he's going to be a failure. He's going to be a total failure. In fact, he's going to the hellfire, and his handwriting is just awful. He's got no chance. So this is the kind of emphasis that the education system gives on specific subjects. This is not holistic parenting. This is not holistic even schooling. It's focusing on very few subjects. And then it's these very same teachers and these very same parents who then come and complain. My child has temperament issues. He's been learning this and he's not doing this and he's throwing tantrums. Okay. Why? Because the need of the child is not to learn the letter S. That a child has different needs, and we need to understand this. We need to understand this. A child, like very briefly, like I said, inshallah, we're going to go into a lot more detail in the workshop. But a child, when they're young, they need attention, they need love, they need care, they need affection. This is what a child needs. And if the child doesn't get the love and the attention and the recognition, that's when we see children, they're throwing tantrums. We see them, today their mood is off. Okay, they can't sleep at night. It's affecting their diet. Right? They're not eating properly. They're getting stomach aches. Then they're causing more trouble in school. Then we're getting complaints. Then we're having a word with the child. What's wrong? Why are you not doing your homework? Now, only if the child could speak, they would say, I don't need homework. I don't need to know how to write properly. That's your need. That's the expectation which you have of me. But my physical body, my mental, my psychological development demands something else. Right now, I need to be close to you. Do you know? And this is what goes through the child, the mind of a child. Do you know what I go through when I have to leave you in the morning when you drop me off to school, in the company of complete strangers, with a teacher who I don't even know? Do you even know, Mum, the temperament of this teacher? Do you know how she talks to me? I love the way you talk to me. Why do you put me into custody with this teacher? This is what's going through the mind of a child, but the problem is they're unable to express this. So that's why they then become clingy. They don't want to go to school. Now, I'm not saying here all teachers are like this. Okay, so for the teachers here amongst us, please forgive me. I'm not saying that. But we just have to, I mean, even if there are teachers amongst us, we ask ourselves the question, okay, or ask yourself the question. The way I treat my own children, the love, affection, attention, the the number of times I forgive my kids versus the love, care, attention, and forgiveness I demonstrate in the classroom. Is there a difference? Because if there's a difference, then there's something wrong. And of course, there's going to be a difference because a teacher, his performance is dictated by the system. So they have to deliver the curriculum. They have to go through, and if they're unable to tackle a child, they will be passed on to the SEN teacher. They'll be passed on to someone else. So this child in class is basically saying, teacher, I'm struggling. I'm not feeling well. I didn't want to leave home this morning. I didn't want to leave my parents this morning, but I've been forced to come here. Can you please give me what I need, which is a bit more love and attention? And the teacher says, no, I'm not here to fulfill your emotional and psychological needs. I can acknowledge them. I am here to deliver A, B, C. Make sure you write between the lines. Make sure you sit up when I ask you to sit up. But that's not what the child needs. This is what the education system needs. This is what the teacher needs in order to deliver the lesson. So when it comes to parents' evening, she can give a good report. And if it's not good, the child is going to be thrown back into your face. There's something wrong with your child. Now, the question here is, is there something wrong with our children? Bearing in mind who created our children? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them perfect. So are you saying there's something wrong in Allah's creation, or is there actually something wrong in your education system and your requirements? That's the question we need to ask. So, and the reason why we're not asking this question is because we don't understand the concept of holistic parenting. We don't understand what children need. And the same applies for adults as well. When an adult comes into work and they're having an off day, fine, I understand there's KPIs, there's targets to achieve. Okay, but I'm going to ignore the fact that this person had an argument with his wife in the morning. I'm going to ignore the fact that this person has bills to pay and the wages isn't enough. I'm going to ignore the fact that this parent had to stay up all night because the daughter was sick. I'm going to ignore the fact that there's a bereavement in the family, or this person's father is unwell. And all I want from you is do the work, because if you don't do the work, there's going to be a disciplinary, you're going to be referred to HR, and you risk losing your job. So even here, the adult has a need which is not being fulfilled, and the workplace will not fulfill this need. We have been plugged into these systems, so we fulfill the requirements of these systems. And as a result, we lose this concept and understanding of holistic parenting. So unfortunately, our education system is teaching us to focus on the wrong things. And instead of opening the mind and making a child grow up to explore and strengthen the potentials to do something big in life, it's preparing us for the opposite. And we as parents, we are blindly following this system. We're giving away our kids to this system. And these gems that were given to us with potential. See, again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created humans with what in mind? Their end point, their end destination is Jannah. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created insan, and then He sent us from the ummah of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, this was in the blueprint that I've sent this individual into the world with all the skills and the abilities as part of this ummah, and I've given them the Quran, I've given them the best example, the best prophet, so that when they leave this world, they have the ticket to go to Jannah, they're successful. That's how Allah created us. But what do? We say, okay, fine, yes, Allah, I'm sure you've given the Quran as a blueprint and you've given the Seerah. Yeah, that's fine. That's an amazing instruction manual. However, I am going to feed my child into a system which is atheistic. I'm going to feed my child into a system, and if you're in the UK, and it's probably across the globe now, may Allah protect us, I'm going to feed my child into a system which has been dictated, which has been designed from an atheistic perspective. The content that is being taught is completely against this, our Iman. It's completely against understanding that there is one Allah, that He is the Qadir, He is the Creator, okay? There was no one before Him, there's not going to be anyone after Him. But I'm going to feed my child into the system that teaches the opposite. I'm going to teach my child that teaches them that, look, what's this Isra wal Mi'raj? And what's this flying horse? All this is fairy tales. Let's talk reality. Let's talk science. And essentially, that's what we're doing. We're feeding them into this system, and then we sit down at home and we think, oh my God, what's happening to my child? Who's going to find the solution? Let's go to, Sheikh so-and-so. Let's go to this counselor. And it doesn't make sense. Allah, so I think sometimes even Allah is going to say, Habibi, I gave you the instruction manual. You chose not to follow it, and then you suffered. That's not my problem. That's your problem. Why did you make that choice? Yani, did you not think? At least question. So when we don't question, this is what happens. So how were we created? We were created to become khalifas and leaders of the ummah. We were created to do something much bigger in life. Okay. But unfortunately, we're not doing it. And I mean, it's there. It's there in society. If I was to ask the question, what is the rate of divorce in the world right now? Is it going up or is it going down? The number of domestic cases going up or going down? Crime going up and going down? And I'm not talking in the non-Muslim community. I'm talking in the Muslim community. Is it increasing or decreasing? The rates of depression, the rates of diabetes, heart attacks, stroke, cancer, dishonesty, cheating, lying, increasing or decreasing? It's increasing. Why is that the case? We need to ask, why is that the case? Because we're following, a part of the answer is this, and it's a very big part of the answer. We've subscribed to a system which is completely against the system which was given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, yep, holistic parenting. So holistic parenting doesn't mean that we focus on something very specific like handwriting or just to be a really good doctor or a dentist. That is not holistic parenting. Okay. Holistic parenting is something completely different. Now, when we talk about education, so again, what is the purpose of education? So the way we define education, or should I say the greater goals of education, okay? So of course, some of the goals of education is that you become educated and, for example, not that you attain a degree, but you learn a skill for the benefit of mankind. So if you're becoming a doctor, for example, you're becoming a dentist, you're becoming a lawyer, or you're becoming a writer, whatever. I'm learning this skill so I can use this as a form of earning some income, but the real purpose is for me to use this skill because this is a passion that I have, and God's given me those abilities to excel in this field so I can serve the world for a bigger purpose. Okay. So that's a small goal of the education system. So what we say is the greater goal or the greater goals of education are to develop the 3 C's. And what are those 3 C's? Number 1 is confidence. Number 2 is creativity. And number 3 is character. Again, in the workshop, we're going to go into a lot more detail. But here, if I was to just to give you a taster, what do we mean by confidence? So is confidence something which you can build into a person? So our understanding in our paradigm, that's wrong. You cannot make anyone any more confident than what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given to them when they were born in this world. And the simple example of this is when a child is born, okay, and they start growing up, they are super confident. The child doesn't fear anything. They will speak to anyone. Bring a lion in front of the child, and they will think it's a toy, and they will play with the lion just like a toy, like a teddy bear. Present a spider in front of the child, and they'll pick it up and squish it, and they'll even eat it. Okay, say something wrong in front of a child, and they will immediately catch you out, and they'll correct you on the spot. They won't think that you're older and you demand respect, and I shouldn't make you look as if you're lying. No, they have the confidence to speak up. And I'm sure we've seen this experience so many times. We see our kids, we say something, and the kids correct us, no, Baba, that's not what happened. Oh, no, that's wrong. That's not what was said. What is this? This is confidence where the child does not fear, and they want to tell the truth, and they want to explore, and they're not afraid to speak up. Give a child a mic, and they will say all sorts in the mic because they don't care what people are thinking. But what happens? So what we're saying is a child is born with confidence, with a maximum level of confidence. Now, what happens is we as parents, through our actions, we destroy the child's confidence. And then later on in life, we attempt to rebuild the confidence. So that's the difference over here we need to understand. A child is confident, they are born confident. We, through our actions, through our words, through our expressions, through our own complexes, we destroy a child's confidence. And one example comes to mind where we were I was sat in the masjid, in the front saf, in the front row with my son. And the Imam, he finished his salah, and everyone started getting up and walking away to finish the sunnah and nawafil. And my son said to me, Baba, can I go and pray where the Imam prays? So I just want you to place yourself in that position. So you're in this really grand mosque, and your child is asking you, can I go and stand on the minbar where the Imam delivers a sermon from? Or can I go stand on the stage where the speaker has been? What would your response be? So I knew my response. My response was like, no, you can't do that. But I'm thinking, why not? If my son wants to go and pray where the Imam is praying, it's because he's aspiring to be like the Imam. Okay? Or maybe he just wants to experience it. There's nothing wrong with that. But the time I took to process this and, understand what he's saying, and the time it took me to understand my own complexes and my own lack of confidence, he understood. But eventually I said to him, no, it might be okay, but I think you should go ask the Imam and see what he says. So anyway, he went and asked the Imam, and the Imam said it's probably not appropriate for you to go and stand there. Okay. So my son came back, he became back really disappointed. Okay. So what happened, was it right or wrong? Let's put that to a side. The point I'm making here is a child is confident. A child is confident. But I know for a fact after what he saw in me, he lost the confidence because now he knows that, oh, I'm not sure I should be doing these things. Why? Because what will people say? So this whole thing, what will people say versus what will Allah say? That's the real question. That's where the confidence should come from. My Allah is saying, I need to make a sacrifice, or I need to do this to help my Muslim brother or sister, or I need to pick up that piece of food on the floor. Okay, this is what my morals and values tell me. But because my confidence, my image is based on society, when I step forward, I'm thinking, what's that person going to say? So I'm no longer aware or thinking what Allah wants. Or even if I am, my relationship with Him is so weak that I base my actions on what will people say. This is a lack of confidence in following through your beliefs. This is a lack of confidence of my Allah is watching me. Yani my Allah is watching me. If Prince Charles or not Prince Charles anymore, King Charles, or if the head of state where you live was to come and say to you that, look, I've got your back. I've got your back. You can do whatever you want. I am watching you, observing you. And whenever I notice you do something good, you will be rewarded with a house. If you know that, will you stop yourself from doing something after thinking what he will think, what they will think? You don't care what Joe Blogs, the neighbor next door, he's going to say. Why? I've got the king watching me, and every time I do something, he's going to reward me with a house. So you're no longer concerned about the opinions of people because you have the king behind you. You're worried about, or you're more concerned and more in love with the king's opinion. That's the same relationship we ought to have with Allah. My Allah is watching me, to hell with the people what they're going to say. I know for a fact my Allah agrees with this. It's according to the Sharia, it's according to the Sunnah. I'm going to go take the step. So this is confidence, right? So this is a greater goal of education. Now, also understand this. How do we destroy a child's confidence? If we give them the mic, they're quite happily, they want to say, all the words that they want to say. Now, what happens is when we laugh or we make a silent comment, or when we ask them to perform and then when we grade the child, that is what destroys the child's confidence. Why? Because when we laugh at the child, if I laugh at you, if you make a comment, you stutter, and I laugh at you, what will that do to your confidence? It's going to harm your confidence. This is the exact same thing that we do with kids. When they stutter, when they make mistakes, okay, for us, it's entertainment. Oh, that's so cute. Yeah, for you, your comment, you think that was cute, but you don't know what's going through the mind of the child, but destroying their confidence. At that time, they just need acknowledgement. Well done. What matters is the effort, not the result. And this is exactly as we've mentioned before. In Allah's eyes, it's the effort that counts. It's not the result. If Nuh alayhi salam was to be rewarded and if he was to be judged on the result, he wouldn't get very far. And he lived for 950 plus years. How many people came to follow him? So Allah does not look at results, He looks at effort. So this is exactly what we need to do with children. And I keep using the word children. This applies to teenagers, this applies to adults. You're trying, you couldn't do it, no problem, right? It's the effort. I can see you're making an effort. So this is, one example of how we destroy a child's confidence. Okay, so again, a child is born confident. What we do as parents through our actions is that we destroy the child's confidence. So any system, so going back to the grading I mentioned, the moment we grade a child, like, you know what, you got 3 out of 10, you got 9 out of 10. The last time you were given marks at school, college, university, wherever, okay, and you scored a 7 out of 10, and you saw someone score a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, what did that do to your confidence? How did that make you feel? For the majority of us, we didn't feel good. We felt substandard. For some people, if they had the intrinsic motivation, they would have said, you know what, I need to try harder. Now that raises the question, should you be doing something out of competition? Okay, because what if the competition isn't there? Does that mean you're going to stop doing that thing? That's the question we need to ask. So am I competing with someone? Or am I following the ayat of the Quran? Ayyukum ahsanu amala. And this is where ihsan comes in. Is the deeds that I'm going to do, I'm going to do to the best of my ability, and I'm going to keep trying hard. And I'm not going to do it because I'm measuring my success or the results versus someone else. No, I'm going to measure it versus my own standard. So what was my level of sincerity and intention yesterday? How could I make it better? What was my level of sacrifice yesterday? How can I make it better? And I'm not going to judge it on other people. Because again, that extrinsic motivational factor, it makes you very risky. It becomes very risky. So that's why, if you're living, if you're living amongst a group of people who aren't, for example, very well educated, okay, and the highest grade they achieved was a D, and you get a B, you're going to think, wow, amazing, I'm Einstein. But you're comparing yourself to a substandard set of people. What you should be aiming for is, I want to achieve the best. I don't care what the people around me are getting. I need to put the effort in because ayyukum ahsanu amala. I'm aiming for ihsan because I want to be the best in front of Allah. So that's just confidence and a bit about confidence. Then comes creativity, then comes character. And again, this we will inshallah discuss a lot more in the workshop next week. So I've discussed just a few things over here. So first of all, I talked about what is holistic parenting. What are the questions I asked is, what are the harms of holistic parenting? And then I briefly talked about education. What is education? What are the greater goals of education? And how confidence, creativity, and character, the 3 C's, these are the greater goals of education. And then, as I was saying, if there is a system that goes against the goals of education set by us, set by my deen, I will not subscribe to this system. I will not subscribe to this system. I will not enroll my child into a system, or I myself will not be the means, or I will not be the person who is going to destroy my child's confidence, or destroy my child's creativity, or destroy my child's character. And for that, I need to learn, or I need to observe myself and see what is it that I am doing, what are the needs of my child, how is my child feeling. So then our teachers say, if we want to describe the nature of childhood, if we want to understand child development, if we want to understand child psychology, then there is one principle we have to understand, which is when we describe a child, how do we describe the child? We don't describe the child as a sponge or a slate. We describe the child using the metaphor of a seed and a plant. Why? Because what we're saying here is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He created this insan, see, look, Allah is the best. He is the creator. He's the best of creators. So when He created insan, and when we use the metaphor as a seed, that implies that in this seed is the DNA and the information required to turn this seed into something amazing. So when this seed grows, it will form a plant, then a tree, then it will give fruits and shelter. So everything is in there. You can't make a seed any better than it actually is, right? The seed itself. Now, in order to get the best out of the seed, what do? You give it food, you give it water, you give it sunlight, nitrogen, etc. So basically, you give the seed favorable conditions. And the more favorable the condition, the stronger and more beautiful and the longer lasting this seed will grow into a plant and a tree. Okay, it's going to have a really good immune system. It's going to be able to fight off infection. It's going to be able to give fruits year in, year out. So that's a seed. Now, what happens if you don't give the seed enough water or enough light or enough, moisture or air, etc.? The seed will start to grow, but very quickly it will wither. Or the fruits, it might not even give fruits. Or the fruits it will give, they're not going to be very nice. So this is the metaphor that we use when we talk about children. Children are seeds. Confidence is in them. Creativity is in them. Character is in them. Honesty is in them. Intellect is in them. Everything is there in the seed. What does Allah do? Allah gives us the seed and say, look, you are now the gardener. You need to create the favorable conditions to make sure that this child grows into becoming the ummati, the leader, the khalifa. what happens is we as gardeners, we don't know how much food to give them. We don't know what emotional needs that this child has. We don't know the physical needs that this child has. We don't know the intellectual needs. So when we don't give the child all the needs, this child grows into this weak, feeble plant. Sometimes they have a disease, they don't taste nice, they're growing in the wrong direction, they're unable to fight infection. This is because we have not understood holistic parenting. So this is why it's very important when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this seed. First of all, we need to acknowledge this is the best seed that's been given to me. It has huge potential. I need to do something to make sure that this seed blossoms. And if I'm just going to, number one, I am the gardener. Allah gave me the seed. I said, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to earn money and I'm going to cook some food and buy clothes and lots of gadgets. They're the only 4 things I'm going to do. The rest of your nurturing, I'm going to outsource. I'm going to outsource to what kind of a system, what kind of a person. That's what we're doing. Why? Because I don't have the time, I can't be bothered, may Allah forgive us, or I simply don't have the knowledge. So this is the opportunity. In the next workshop is we will go through what it means to be that parent, what are the needs of our children, how we can fulfill them. So whether you're a single parent, okay, or whether you're still married and your relationship is healthy and ongoing, it doesn't make a difference. We still have a responsibility. We still have to understand what the needs are. We still have to understand in what proportion we need to deliver these needs to our children. We need to understand how to understand them. Every child is different. Some seeds, they grow in the sun. They need lots of sunlight. They need lots of heat. Some seeds, that's not how they grow. We need to understand what kind of a seed do I have? Is it a mango? Is it a potato? Is it a carrot? What is it? Right? So this is what we need to understand. And the quicker we understand this, the easier it becomes for us to nurture that child to become, as Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam has said in a hadith, where he compared the Muslim to a date palm tree. Why a date palm tree? Inshallah, I'm going to leave that as an exercise for you. So why did Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam describe this amazing Muslim as a date palm tree? We will discuss further in the workshop, inshallah. So I hope that just adds a bit more light onto holistic parenting. It just makes us think. Now, I'll just end on this note. I understand a lot of us as parents, we're sending our kids to school because that's the only solution that we see at the moment. That's understandable. Okay, it's understandable. I think as parents, what's really important is we learn to understand what is it that the system is doing, what is it that I as a parent need to do, and what are the solutions around it. Okay, what is it that I can do? Homeschooling would be amazing. However, not everyone can homeschool, and it's based on lots of factors, and we understand this. However, if we are schooling, there are still certain steps that we can take to make sure that we undo the damage that is being done in schools, that we undo the damage that's being done in society, and that's going to be through learning what damage is being done, how I need to shape myself, how do I answer my own questions. I mean, this is, and I feel this is turning into a bit of a bit of a problem. Lots of people are asking questions. How do I solve this? How do I solve this? This is like going to a doctor and saying, Doctor, I have a headache. Okay, fine. The doctor will give you paracetamol and off you go. Okay, you come back, Doctor, I have a migraine. Okay, fine. Take some sumatriptan. Off you go. You come back, Doctor, I'm beginning to lose weight. Okay, why are you not eating? I'll give you some appetite building tablets. Off you go. When we come and ask questions, and please, I'm not discouraging questions, ask questions. But what we should be looking at is what's the root cause of the problem? We need to tackle the root cause, and we won't be able to tackle the root cause until we don't understand the problem, we don't understand ourselves, we don't understand the child, we don't understand their needs, we don't understand the system, we don't question, we don't learn, we don't sit with people. Okay, and just on a final note, which one of my dear friends told me just to mention on this is, I don't know if you've ever come across a Hakim. Okay, so if you sort of, so I'm not talking about the Hakims who charge, hundreds and hundreds of pounds. So I'm talking here about sort of you can say, if you come across genuine Hakim, it's like back in the days. So what our teachers say is, and alhamdulillah, we've been blessed to have and come across these people. When you go to a Hakim, okay, what does he do? This Hakim will be able to, for example, hold your wrist, or he'll be able to ask you a few questions. So he will be able to diagnose you. And then the same Hakim will not only prescribe you some medicines, they will also ask you questions and give to you, advise you some lifestyle changes and advice that you need to make. So they'll ask you, what are you eating? What time are you sleeping? What temperature is the water that you drink? When you go to the toilet, are you sitting on the you can say the English toilet, or are you squatting? Or because all these things actually make a difference, they affect our health. So the Hakim will do all of this. Then when they prescribe something, they are also manufacturing their own medicines, herbal medicines. They'll give it to you and they'll call you back for a follow-up. Okay, and then if you have any questions, they'll also tell you about this. They will also tell you about side effects. So when we look at the traditional Hakim, then we find that this one person is able to treat this person holistically. What do we have now? To book an appointment, you need to speak to someone. Then when you go to see the doctor, he will prescribe something. Then you need to go to a third person, the pharmacist, to get your medicines. Then when you have a side effect, you need to do something. Then you need to go to the X-ray department and speak to the radiologist who will do the X-ray. Then you have to go to the consultant who will interpret the X-ray. Then they will diagnose it. Then you'll have to go to another specialist. Then you'll be followed up by another department. So what's happened over here? So in the past, when a person became, you can say, a health professional, they offered a holistic package. You go to one person, you have all your healthcare needs, lifestyle needs, psychological needs fulfilled by one person. But now the system has become so fragmented, you need to see a dozen people. That takes time, the quality of care that you get, it's weird. And if there's anyone missing in the workflow, so the radiologist is on holiday, the consultant, is on holiday, your treatment stalls. You have to wait for 2-3 weeks. And during that time, you suffer. So this is the whole concept of holistic parenting. We need to work on the entire individual. But before working on the entire individual, I need to become an entire individual. I need to be the psychologist for my child. I need to be the doctor for my child. I need to be the counselor for my child. I need to be the teacher for my child. I need to be the alim for my child. I need to be the person, the imam, who is going to lead for my child. When a person dies, who has the most right to lead the funeral prayer. It's the son, or it's the father, it's the family member. But because we're unable, we've not learned this skill because we've just specialized in one skill, we're unable to lead the prayers. Now tell me, who will genuinely cry from their heart for their parents when they die? Is it the imam or is it the son? And when this person sheds tears in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do you think his prayers are not going to be accepted? When this person makes dua that his parents are forgiven, do you think this son's dua is not going to be accepted? Of course it's going to be accepted. But we have chosen to outsource this. Everything has been fragmented. We're working on specific skills. So this holistic method of parenting, of just living a life, it's not there. It's not there. And it's costing us more money. And if we look at it, the amount that parents are spending, this teacher is different, this counselor is different, this is different. I mean, up until a certain age, we as parents should be equipped with the skills where we are able to fulfill the majority of our children's needs. Our children don't need our presence. Presence with a T. Our children need our presence. That's what they need. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about my tarbiyah, when we talk about holistic parenting. This is what we need to do. We need to rise up to the challenge Allah has given these children as a responsibility to us. Allah has given the entire ummah as a responsibility. I mean, it's just not my children that are my responsibility. My wife, my parents, my neighbors, when I'm out on the road, those people who I work with, when I go shopping, all the entire ummah is my responsibility. On the day of judgment, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam will be crying, Ummati, Ummati. He's not going to be crying, O people of Medina, O people of Medina. He's not just going to be crying, O people of the Arabian Peninsula. He's not just going to be crying, O Arabic speakers. He's not going to be crying, O people who followed my sunnah. It's no discrimination at all. That was his mission. My mission is the same. How am I going to fulfill this bigger, worthwhile cause? I need to, first of all, understand this. I need to go and study, and this is how I need to perceive the world. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to live a life, to make the choices so we can live for a bigger, worthwhile cause. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with barakah in our time, with our money, so we're able to make a sacrifice and we're able to spare some time out to go and study these things and understand where is it that we're going wrong? What is it that I need to learn? What is the bigger responsibility that's been given to me? How are my skills, my temperament, my emotions, my knowledge or lack of knowledge affecting the development of this beautiful seed that I was blessed with? We have to take time out. We have to make a sacrifice. And this is also one of our traditions is until a sacrifice is not, see, deen is not easy. Deen, understanding, ilm, knowledge, wisdom, hikmat does not enter a person's heart sitting on a sofa in front of a screen. That's not how deen works. There has to be mujahida. And our elders, our scholars say there needs to be mujahida of your jan, yourself. There needs to be mujahida, there needs to be some sacrifice made with your wealth. And the third thing is you need to sacrifice some time. When these three things come together, so yourself, your hard-earned money, which you so much are in love with, which you want to spend on other things. But when you spend this on deen, and when you spend that time, that valuable time you have that you want to spend in front of the screen or reading something random, or when you combine these three things together for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to learn His deen, to improve yourself, to become closer to Him, to serve mankind, to serve the mission of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that is when decisions are made. That is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the doors of knowledge. He opens the doors of wisdom. He opens the doors of help when nusrat comes. And then that's when a person is able to see real big difference in his life. And we don't need to go far. A person who makes effort on some rock, that rock, when he makes effort on it, it turns into iron ore. It can turn into gold. You make effort in the ground on some oil. What happens? You spend time on it, you spend money on it, you spend physical effort. That oil turns into kerosene, it turns into bitumen, it turns into tar, it turns into petrol. So whatever we make an effort on, it turns into something amazing. And that effort requires sacrifice of those three things. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to make a sacrifice for the right causes, so we are able to make ourselves just the perfect Muslim, or at least a much better Muslim than what we are. Inshallah, so this will be the last session. We will now have a class once the course ends. If you haven't registered, please, if you have the time, please do register. The course will also be recorded, but it will only be available for the people who registered for the course. So I do please highly recommend. And again, this is one of the wisdoms, and this always plays on my mind as well, as why are we charging for courses? And what we find is when people make a sacrifice and they give some money, not only do they take it seriously, but going back to this, when we spend money, Allah will give us something back in return. Whether we enjoy it or not, we'll get something back in return. Okay, so inshallah, I hope to see you next week or after the course. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make our affairs easy for us. Jazakallah for your patience. May Allah accept your efforts for attending these sessions. May Allah give barakah in your time. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make your affairs easy, make your children the coolness of your eyes. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us the coolness of our children's eyes and the society around us. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us those role models like the Sahaba, where when people used to see the Sahaba, they used to say, we want to become like you. What is it that you're following? We just want to become like you. I don't care what faith it is, we just want to become like you. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that character and give us those attributes where we are able to follow in their footsteps. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.